Hello, everybody. I am AFAA Master Instructor Jay Guillory,
And I am AFAA Master Instructor Christine Woods.
and we are back with another episode of Tuesday Teaching Tips. Again, the triple T. So today, we're back into our Instructor Essentials series. But before we start on today's topic, Christine, a wrap up from last week?
Last week, yes. So last week we were talking about how you go about developing that superstar instructor persona. And I think what we talked about, or one of the most important things, is just having that really good balance between being an entertainer as well as being an educator. And those two things really make up a winning combination for an instructor.
Absolutely. So today's topic is on-the-spot considerations. Now, the on-the-spot considerations are basically the things that instructors have to be prepared for when they teach class, because no matter how perfectly you plan this class on paper, I can assure you something's going to go wrong. Something, or some situation is going to happen, or look, we're humans and we are not perfect. So I'm just going to tell you something's going to happen. So we have 6 points that we want to look at when we talk about our on-the-spot considerations. And the first one being unexpected participants. Unexpected participants, especially in spatial considerations, because we do have safety guidelines that every facility has to follow in terms of how many people can fit in a room at a particular time. And then in certain classes, we also have a certain amount of equipment that people can have. So if you have 15 barbell sets, then technically you know that only 15 people can take that class. When we talk about unexpected participants, we're speaking of the people who come in a little late, kind of like after the time, and you're in your teaching groove, you're in your teaching persona, and then you notice that you have 3 more people coming to class and your class capacity is at 40%. So I think one of the first things that you have to do is probably ask your fitness director or your general manager how you're going to address these particular issues. Because sometimes they may let it slide, sometimes they may not.
Yeah, and I think, like, in the time we are now, it's that much more important that we're really kind of staying strict to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so think about, I think it's really important that you just think about nipping it in the bud as quickly as you can so you can get back to class as per usual, right? You don't want to bring down the vibe. So think about how you can keep the class in a holding pattern, or keep them doing something on the clock. 45 seconds, go, while you run to the door, address it kindly, considerately. But then get back to class.
Absolutely.
Good. Point number 2, with regard to space limitations, I don't know, but I've become very accustomed to teaching in small spaces. I think it's because for a very long time I was teaching in a very small studio space. But again, now teaching from home, this is where I'm teaching. And again, it's a very small, confined space. So I think it is a good idea when you are planning classes. And again, just to kind of plant in the back of your head, have a format in mind so that you can teach in small spaces and you can avoid, contact with others and avoid, others getting aggravated because they feel people are infringing upon their space. But my method, I have everybody grab a mat. The mat serves as a placeholder. They exercise behind the mat, maybe directly to the side, on top, directly on the other side. But the mat really just stakes out there. It's a placeholder, and it keeps everybody appropriately distanced.
Very good. The next one, equipment changes. So with equipment changes, facilities order new equipment all the time. And in this day and age, they must be the people who's ordered all of this equipment, because I can't find a set of dumbbells on Amazon. So I don't know what is going on. But when we talk about equipment changes, just make sure that you have practiced with the new equipment. There's certain pieces of equipment that you may need to check out before you actually use them in your class. For instance, i.e. bands or tubing. Tubing needs to be checked because we don't want anybody getting injured because of pop tubing or getting popped in the face. I've seen it happen in the class. I'm almost positive it's not a good feeling.
It's not.
And you can think about when you have certain classes that require a certain amount of equipment, or you only have a certain amount of equipment for a particular class, using sign-up logs, creating in your lesson plan, alternate exercises that people can do. So if you're teaching a barbell-based class and you only have 10 sets, but you do have dumbbells, think about the alternate exercises that people can do with dumbbells to where they can still participate in class, but not have to use the exact equipment that you normally would be using.
Great. Yep. Timing challenges. Yeah, that happens all the time, right? You have an instructor who's teaching before you. They run a little bit late. That means your next class gets started a little bit after the hour, right? And nobody likes that. And it's just, unfortunately, it's something you have to deal with. So my advice would be just think about, in your workout, in your session, what is perhaps the least important. So especially if there's something that you've sort of maybe tacked on to the end in your class preparation planning, maybe you've included some abdominal or core work at the very end. Maybe you had reserved some time for some teaching tips at the very end of the cool down, something like that. But figure out, what's going to disrupt the flow of the class the least, right? So figure out what that is and just remove it so that, again, you can, finish up hopefully on time.
But I would also like to say, as instructors, let's just all be respectful of the person behind us.
Very true. Very true.
And the last two, managing conflict and then managing your participants. So managing conflict has a lot to do with, we all know the students who have their space in class. Like, we know the person who is to the right side diagonally behind us because that person's there all the time. And then you have a new person that comes in and they stand there unbeknownst to them that this is, they had no idea. And then you see the regular student come in. Hey, address the issue if it becomes a problem, or if, looks get exchanged, and just kind of, I would say, make each person feel like they belong. I'm like the regular participant, because a lot of the times I get this from the cartoons in the old days, from the Coyote and Roadrunner. If you can't beat them, join them. Sometimes you have to make people accept each other. And in saying that, have the regular participant kind of take the new participant under their wing and say, this is how class is going to work. Have them do the explanation of class. Because a lot of the times, especially when you're talking about front row people, this is what the front row people want to be used for. They want to be used as co-instructors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into what Christine talks about in managing participants.
Yeah, but I mean, giving them the spotlight. I think that's a super idea. But yeah, with regard to that, knowing there are different personalities and people have different places in the room and all that good stuff, if you see that you as the instructor can take a little bit of control from a positioning standpoint. So maybe you want to help people, stagger so that everybody can see, everybody has their own space, right? Similarly, if you see something that's again, different personality types, you might have some people in the back row who are perhaps being a little distracting, whether they are talking amongst themselves, giggling, having their private conversations, doing things with the class flow. So perhaps increasing the intensity, involving more arm movement, making them work a little harder, work hard, talk less, right?
Exactly.
Maybe that person is kind of like looking for your attention in a way. And so if you can, I don't know, if you're teaching on a stage or you're obviously in front of the room, maybe you can come down, and while they're doing some kind of move, maybe you can get down on their level and say something encouraging or something to just help with the motivation to, again, make sure they're less of a distraction.
Absolutely. That's about all we have time for today. So again, on the spot considerations, I'm just going to say, be prepared.
Absolutely.
I am AFAA Master Instructor Jay Guillory.
And I'm AFAA Master Instructor Christine Woods.
And we would like to thank you for joining us today. We will see you next week. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.